Susan Gardner here for Municipal World for the 2019 Transforming Local Government Conference in Reno, Nevada. Joining me in our media center is Jonathan Koppell. Welcome, Jonathan.
Nice to meet you.
Jonathan is the Dean of the School of Public Service and Community Solutions at Arizona State University. So tell us a little bit about the college.
Right. So actually we're the Watts College of Public Service and Community Solutions. The name Watts is a recent addition to our college, reflecting a significant $30 million philanthropic investment in public service, and obviously we're really proud about that, and it's an important point for those watching the video to know, because we hear a lot of negative things about the decline of public service and the lack of interest in it, and yet here this is a very positive development that shows there are people who think investing in our communities and investing in those who are dedicated to bettering our communities is a worthwhile use of their dollars.
Fantastic.
So I think that's a good way to start off our discussion.
Absolutely. And local government is a big part of the program.
Local government is a core focus of the Watts College, and in particular of our School of Public Affairs. We have one of the top ranked programs in schools of public affairs nationally, usually ranked between 1 and 5 in that area. We specialize in training people who go on to be city managers and people who run local government in our School of Public Affairs, but we also have a top school of criminology and criminal justice, so you've got people going off and running local police departments and being law enforcement officers. We've got a school of social work that's training people who are doing the hard work on the streets of working with folks, giving them a helping hand. And we have a school of community development, which is training people in everything from nonprofit management to parks and recreation to tourism and economic development. So in myriad ways, we're training people to do this. We have 20 plus research centers that are interested in local government. This really is our bread and butter.
That's fantastic. A question I have, we're talking about the name of the school, School of Public Service and Community Solutions. A lot of schools have programs, of course, devoted to public administration. Mm-hmm. Is the name of that significant in terms of how it's positioned?
Absolutely. So there's two things that are important about the name. So one, we use the phrase public service, and it's interesting because we changed the name over the last couple of years, and people said, well, public service, that doesn't test well. It's sort of out of fashion, and made a decision that said, no, public service is core to the health of our democracy, and I'm not going to run away from the idea of public service. We take a broad view of public service, though public service doesn't equal government service, and indeed many of the pathways that our students choose doesn't involve government service, but it involves service to the public. And one of the programs that we've created in the last few years is something called a Public Service Academy, where we have students from across the university, 80 different majors, who are enrolled in a 4-year service training program. I don't know if Canadians are as familiar with the Reserve Officer Training Corps, ROTC, which is ROTC is on many college campuses in the United States. It prepares people for military service.
Yes.
So we've essentially created a civilian equivalent to that to prepare people for lives of public service.
Wow.
And so that's the ethic that we tried to communicate with that part. The second part of our name, the Community Solutions part, and I realize it's a long name. The second part's really important, because one of the things that makes our college distinctive is that, yes, we're preparing people for lives of service, and yes, they earn degrees, and of course we have professors who are doing research and they write papers that probably not many people read. But fundamentally, we take as our mission addressing the most vexing challenges in our communities. So whether that's homelessness or human trafficking or deficits in public administration or a lack of trust between a community and their police departments, we could go down the list. Our purpose is to address them. Not, some of our graduates will address them. Not, we'll study what other people are doing. We actually run programs in the community and take as our purpose addressing those issues. And that's a little different than what most universities see for themselves.
Fantastic. So, you talked about the connection to local government, tied to that very strongly, the Alliance for Innovation.
Right.
which is has its home base, I think, in the same
That's
city
right.
as the college.
No, not in the same city.
Not
It's
city?
in the college.
It's in the college,
The
okay.
Alliance. So a little bit of history, and it's a good example of something that most universities would look at us and say, "Well, why are you doing that exactly?" So the Alliance for Innovation was created some years ago out of a couple of different initiatives. We won't get into the full history, but at the time, the vision was that a university partner could really add to the meat of the Alliance, that it could help capture the knowledge that's gained by practitioners in local government, put them in a form that they could then be spread around to other local governments, and of course this conference is part of that process. ASU and the School of Public Affairs immediately said, well, we want to be that. We want to be that partner. And that's when the relationship was born between the Alliance and Arizona State University School of Public Affairs. The Alliance is housed within the School of Public Affairs. We devote some of our most precious resources, that is to say, space, as you imagine,
Yes.
To the Alliance. And we have created a program, the Marvin Andrews Fellow Program, which seeks to have the best and brightest students who aspire to local government come to ASU. They get full tuition, paid, and their first year as Marvin Andrews Fellows. Marvin Andrews was the legendary, or one of the legendary city managers of the city of Phoenix. The Marvin Andrews Fellows spend their first year working for the Alliance, and so we devote their labor as students to the Alliance for Innovation.
Another
And
valuable
several of them are
resource.
here at this conference,
Awesome.
and they've gone on to do terrific things. We now have we've produced scores of what they call themselves Marvins, and Marvins are out running cities, doing all kinds of terrific work, and spreading the word of the Alliance too.
Fantastic. Oh, I think, we see people recognizing more and more that valuable collaboration today between academia and the public sector. But I think, this being 40 years now that
Right.
it's celebrating, it's pretty forward-thinking stuff that.
Yeah, and it
back
makes
in
sense.
history.
I mean, my next stop is to talk about innovation, and
Yes.
ASU is widely regarded as it's the most innovative university, according to U.S. News and World Report for the last 4 years, and so it kind of fits with that.
Yeah.
That we would see the relationship with the Alliance as a way to achieve our mission, right? And again, it's what that mission is. It's a broader mission. Does it help us educate students? Sure, a little bit, but what it really does is help us influence the health of our communities, and to help create a platform by which people who are dedicated to local government, which is hard work,
Yes.
they have some opportunity to access tools and best practices and lessons that have been learned by other people. If we're not part of that, who will be? And it makes sense for us.
Awesome. So, you said you're on your way to talk innovation.
Right.
Let's spend a couple minutes talking about
Sure.
that. You're going to be talking about how to create a culture of innovation
Right.
inside your organization, inside your local government organization. What does that process look like?
So it's interesting because we are this university that's widely known for innovation, but we actually don't spend a lot of time thinking about what makes us innovative. So it actually caused some reflection, which was good. So I actually think the most important thing is a very clear sense of mission, and a dedication to that mission. And what is it that you're trying to accomplish? So Arizona State University has decided that its mission is differentiated from a lot of other universities. And we don't think that our job is to exclude as many people as possible. Right? That's what most universities, the first thing I want to tell you is we rejected 95% of the people that applied. We just say that's not for us. Our mission is to show that you can build a university that's inclusive of everyone who's capable of doing college level work, but at the same time sacrifices nothing in terms of quality. So we're going to be a high-level research university on par with the best research universities in the world. We've achieved that. We're in the top 10 in terms of externally funded research of all universities without medical schools. Obviously, that changes the variable if you have a medical school. And even among schools with medical schools, we are in the top 25 if you just exclude the medical research. So we compete at every level. You look at whatever you want, Fulbright scholars, program rankings. that's our mission, and we are focused on that. And then once you have the clarity of mission and you keep repeating it and making it clear, then the question becomes, what do we need to do to achieve our mission? And so our college, the Watts College of Public Service, we exemplify ASU's mission. So actually the majority of our students are first generation college students. Nearly 2/3 are Pell eligible, which means they come from a family income of less than $50,000 US dollars. And it's a majority minority college. And we feel like that's fulfilling our mission, because we're giving people who are focused on service a chance to get a higher education. And so what we've had to figure out, here's where the innovation comes in, which is, what are the obstacles that often get in the way of people with these varied backgrounds achieving college success? And so the innovation is driven by the demands of achieving our mission. And I think a lot of times people say, well, how do we be more innovative? I think that sort of misses the point. The question is, what are you trying to get done? And what do you need to do to get that done? And that sounds kind of goofy and obvious, but I actually think innovation for innovation's sake doesn't really accomplish anything and isn't really a value.
Absolutely.
Right? It's
a tool to
It's a tool,
get
exactly.
the job
It's
done.
a means to an end.
Yeah.
And as you know, there's this, necessity being the mother of invention. If it's necessary to achieve your mission to do things differently, which we have found it is, then you figure out a way to do things differently because you're not willing to compromise on the mission. So that's probably the most important point. And what I realized in my time at ASU is that you can never state the mission and remind yourself, and you can never do it enough. You have to constantly perorate and repeat.
Not just outside.
No, it's not. You put it on a plaque and then it's there. And it just becomes
inside.
part of the woodwork. It's inside, it's constant, it's constantly being reminded. And at first when I was there, and we have a very dynamic university president named Michael Crow, and boy, he would give the same speech and he would say it again and again and again, and I was like, my God, I've heard this a million times. But first of all, your team is always changing. You've got people coming, people going, and so you can't assume that it's just in the water. And second of all, it's a constant reminder that keeps it at the front of your brain and compels you to say, are we doing enough? Have we asked the right questions? And so I think that's one really important aspect of building a culture that's there. Then there's a sort of change to the assumptions that's required. And I think the most important one, and this is really hard in the government space, is you can't be afraid of taking risk. You can't be afraid of failing. You got to get rid of those constraints. All really easy things to say.
In government organizations,
Easy things to say, because somebody's going to leap on you and say, you did what?
Yeah, the traditional constraints are very risk-adverse
Of course,
environments,
for
right?
good
Yes.
reasons. For good reasons. So if you're thinking about a culture that allows for innovation, you have to somehow find a way to create space for failure. There's no...
To fail safe.
There's no other way.
Yes.
There's no other way. And so we've had failures. Of course we've had failures. The funny thing is, when I was deciding whether to go to ASU, this is many years ago, one of the things that impressed me was they actually shut things down. Right? So they would start an initiative, and then at a certain point somebody would say, this isn't...
Not working out.
This is not
Yeah.
what we thought it would be.
Yeah.
Nobody's fault. It's not evil. Let's move on to the next thing.
It takes courage, though, to admit we've got a failure here. Let's
Right.
cut our losses
Right.
and reinvest
And
our
I think that's
efforts
really
elsewhere.
hard to do in the
Agree.
government sector, because then people will leap on you and say, oh,
Yes.
look how much money you wasted on this thing. And
Yeah.
you have to be willing to do that. And you have to be able to build a constituency that supports your latitude to fail.
Right.
So I think that's really important. And then I guess the last thing that I'll talk about, again, which I've come to realize, which is you can never be done. You can't say, all right, we've innovated a lot for the last 5 years. Susan, let's calm down now for a while. It doesn't work. Right? It's not. There's no on and off switch.
It's an iterative process,
It-
right?
It's
You
iterative,
just-
and you have to have that. That has to be the pulse of the organization. That so you got one thing done, but you've got to be saying, okay, that's good.
What
but
next?
now what?
Yes.
Surely there's other things we can do better. Surely there's other things
Yes.
we can fix.
And that's when you know you've got the culture of
Right,
innovation,
right.
when you're doing that continual
It
assessment.
has to be. It
Yeah.
doesn't work otherwise. I've really come to believe that. There's no such thing as taking a pause.
Well, those are fantastic insights. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
For coming and chatting with
My
us.
pleasure.
I appreciate that.
And it's a good dry run for me.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I'm Susan Gardner for Municipal World. We share your stories.